And welcome once again to yet another exciting edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. As we continue getting the guests on here on the show, week one of high school football is in the books. I couldn't think of a better guest that covers high school football in the West Georgia area. He is a host of the Morning Five. He's going to be the first time here on the Sports Beat. Please welcome to the show, Billy Lindahl. How you doing, Billy?
How you doing, Richard? I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
All right. So this is the first time on the Sports Beat. Just tell everybody just about your background. How did you get started in broadcasting, and what areas of high school athletics do you cover in West Georgia?
So that goes back a little way. It started with the Carrollton radio stations out here in Granite Communications. I started here in broadcasting there, and then we started the Morning Five podcast through them. Went independent, and then started moving into Hometown Sports Media, which is now its own independent company that broadcasts high school sports. So we broadcast football all the way down to last year. We even broadcast some gymnastics. So it's very yeah. We're trying to give the student athletes in the West Georgia area the best coverage they can have. And that starts with TM5 in the morning. And then in the afternoons when the games are going on, that's when we get Hometown Sports in there.
Well, I do think that it's very important that West Georgia does get covered, because I think it's a market that gets forgotten, because you have the big news stations in the Metro Atlanta area that covers the Metro Atlanta area. Columbus, we cover maybe all the way up to Callaway. And then, I mean, you got the news stations in Savannah, Augusta, Macon, and Albany, and that's pretty much it. So I think it's important that we highlight these incredible athletes like a Juju Lewis from Carrollton, or the two-time state champions in Bowden, or Temple, Villa Rica, Mount Zion, Central of Carrollton. So many great high school football teams in the area. And Hometown Sports Media, that whole section, it has the privilege of covering it. And really, what is that like, getting to cover these talented teams?
Well, honestly, that's part of why, and you mentioned it, that the coverage was just lacking in the area. Granite Sports has done a great job, for years and years. And we've kind of branched off and did our own thing. When my partner Bryce and I on the Morning Five decided that, some of these kids aren't, outside of football, they weren't really getting covered very well. So we felt that it was a better opportunity for us to go into a daily podcast and to be able to say, hey, so-and-so's had a great game. And, if a coach listens to that, that's 3 podcasts in a row that person's had a great game. Maybe I should go, recruit this person. So it's been a blessing in disguise. I don't think I was really getting into broadcasting originally. And I was just a big sports fan, and it worked out. And I'm very thankful for the opportunities that I've been given with Hometown and TM5.
Well, Billy, I do cover the Chattahoochee Valley here on the Sports Beat. I've been doing this podcast for about 4 years now. Like I mentioned, I cover all the way up to Callaway. Sometimes, our paths cross, especially when Callaway plays a Heard County in the Pulpwood Classic. So I'll cover some of the teams up in your neck of the woods, including when Manchester took on Bowden in the state championship last year. Right. But all eyes are on Carrollton, because Juju Lewis is the #1 recruit in the entire nation. In fact, Carrollton took on Woodward Academy on ESPN2. A lot of coverage is going against Juju Lewis, and you have the privilege of covering Carrollton on your podcast. What has impressed you so much about what Juju Lewis has done? I mean, he's really been known since he was a sophomore when he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, he's a incredibly humble kid too. The first time I met him was he was an eighth grader sitting on the sidelines, and I just shook his hand, and he was just, he was being introduced by a Carrollton booster as this is going to be the next 3 or 4 year starter at Carrollton. And when I shook his hand, he was very humble, very forthcoming, and very, very respectful to us. And he's a heck of an athlete. He's got an incredible arm. The first time I ever saw him play was at Villarica, and the first throw I saw was an overthrow, but at that point it didn't matter to me because I saw the footwork, the arm talent. I said, this kid's going to be a star. And so being able to see him, the rest of that offense, he's in the best possible spot for him in Carrollton with Joey King, who, as you know, did Trevor Lawrence in high school. So he's getting a chance to coach, with Juju now. So that offense is stellar. You've got the backing of the Carrollton Booster Club that is always going to give you the best facilities, the best nutrition, everything. I got a chance to walk through their facilities about 6 months ago, and I was just blown away. So they're in a great spot. They showed what they were coming out and saying, hey, we're here, beating Woodward in week 1. So I'm really impressed to see what they do the rest of the year.
Of course, you've got other talented teams in that area, like the two-time state champion Bowden. When you look at what Bowden has accomplished in the last 2 years, and by the way, beating two teams that I cover in the Chattahoochee Valley, they beat Schley County in 2022 in the state championship and beat Manchester in the state championship. Now Manchester's in the same region as Bowden. And I do think that Bowden has got to be one of the favorites. So what has impressed you the most about Bowden, and what is that atmosphere like on a Friday night in a small town of Bowden where it seems like they shut down the whole town and they come pack that stadium to watch them play?
The atmosphere is absolutely incredible. Probably one of the best atmospheres in all of West Georgia. I'd say nearly the state. What has impressed me the most about Bowden is just the consistency of the coaching staff. The fact that they will consistently bring in and just have kids develop from their freshman year all the way up to senior year has been really impressive to be able to watch and see what Rich Finley, like a kid from Caden Prothrow, who 2 years ago, if you had saw Caden Prothrow, you're like, okay, he's a tall kid. Now he's tall, he's built, he's looking like a 4-star, 5-star athlete that he truly is. And he had 100 plus yards and a touchdown on Friday night against Fellowship Christian. So he's going to continue to develop, and the development of the student athletes has been the most impressive thing for Bowden.
All right, let's talk about Temple. Got the win over McNair of Atlanta, 23-6. In your opinion, what does Temple look like? And they play in Class 1A Division 1, but this I think it's wide open. I mean, you got top teams like Fitzgerald and Thomasville, but Prince Avenue Christian's no longer in this division. They're going to be playing in the private sector. I mean, so what is expectations for Temple this year?
Talk to them at media day, and the biggest thing they want is they want to hit 7 wins. It's never happened in program history. They feel like they can get there again this year, or for the first time this year. You talk about they're in the Division 1 conference. 3 other of the teams that we cover are all in the same region. So it's a very, very competitive region for us. It's a very competitive region to be able to watch. We're so excited. And what Temple did on Friday was just unreal. I was looking at the numbers earlier today, and I think they ran the ball 40. Let's see. They ran the ball 44 carries for 298 yards. 44 carries on the ground. That's unreal. And that's exactly what their offense is meant to be. They had 6 passes all night. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing what Temple can do because they've got Clarkston this week, who Heard County took care of last week, and I think that's going to be an easy win for them.
Yeah, you talk about this region. They got to take on Heard County. They got to take on Pepperell, Bremen, Model, Darlington. Those are some schools out of Rome. But another team that I do want to talk about is Haralson County.
Yep.
This is a very talented team. They ended up getting the win over Mount Pisgah Christian, 14-10. A very narrow win. They take on a very talented Pike County team next week. But what are the expectations of Haralson County playing in this region with all the teams that mentioned?
New head football coach there, new system. Things are looking different for them a little bit this year, just because of changing things that Scott Peavy, who moved over to Alabama, has had that system in place for so many years. Randy Crutchfield has been absolutely great with the media. He has talked with us and will continue to talk with us every week. He actually sent me a text, earlier today, giving me stats. But their expectations are building week by week, because when you're in a first year program under a new head coach, you want to be able to see what the team is, how they respond to a new system. And that's, I think, the ultimate thing is to be able to win one by one. And they got win one this week and move on to Pike County next week.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the higher classifications. I'm going to start with Central of Carrollton. This team went undefeated in the regular season, but lost to Stars Mill in the playoffs last year. They get to be in the same region with Stars Mill this year, also with Harris County, North Side. So we're going to be familiar with Central Carrollton because, I cover Harris County and North Side on my podcast because they're in the Columbus market. But I do think that Central Carrollton going down a classification is going to help them. And what are the expectations for Central Carrollton this year in a new classification and having a battle with the likes of a Stars Mill and a Mundy's Mill and a Griffin, and you got some talented teams in their region as well.
They actually stayed in the same classification. They were 4A last year.
Oh, so that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So their expectation is win week 1 and then week 2 and then week 3. That's their expectation. Talking with Umbre Brown, they don't look down the road at future opponents except for the week ahead. And they are singularly focused on the week ahead. And that has been a calling card of what Central Carroll has done since Umbre Brown, who moved down to from Paulding County last season, has done. And he talked about brick by brick is his saying, and laying a foundation last year, like winning 12 wins in his first season. It's the first time in Central history that a first year head coach has won 12 wins in Central program history. So it's spectacular what they've done. And plus that's, I'm a little bit biased a little bit because that's my alma mater, but I still think that it was good to see last year, but you still take a step back from, your alma mater when you're working in the media like this.
Oh, there's no question about it. And I'm not trying to jump ahead, Billy, but on September the 6th, they will take on Villa Rica. That's going to be a massive game. Villa Rica in 5A, not the result they wanted. They did lose to Troup County in their opener, 39-6. We know how talented Troup County is. I covered Troup County here in the Chattahoochee Valley. They went to the Final Four 2 years ago. If they didn't lose their starting quarterback, I believe Troup County would be state champions in 4A. But losing to Troup County, I mean, what's the vibe for Villa Rica fans? Are they shocked? Do they feel it's just week 1 that we could just bounce back and still be competitive?
I don't think it's really the fans that are shocked. I think like my partner Bryce, who is the voice of the Villa Rica Wildcats for Hometown Sports Media, he said that Friday night was very, very sloppy and very messy. I think they have all the right pieces in play at Villa Rica. I think they just have to find how to fit them into the puzzle correctly. And I think that the talent there at Villa Rica with Austin Barron, the second-year head coach, is gonna be able to take over and do great things in the city. He's just got to get the buy-in from not only the kids but from the fans as well.
Billy, my last question to you. I know that you don't really cover this school, but being in Carrollton, the home of West Georgia, they make the transition to the FCS.
Yeah.
What is just the vibe in the community of Carrollton around the West Georgia program now that they're at the FCS level? Because I think this is huge because they're going to be playing like teams like Sanford to open the season, and then I do feel being an FCS school that they'll eventually play FBS schools like a Georgia State or a Georgia Tech one day. And I think that's going to be huge for the program.
The vibes are very excited. The city of Carrollton's very excited for the start of football season for the West Georgia Wolves. New head coach there as well. So you've got a big just turning around. You've got a new head coach. You're jumping up to Division One. This is going to be a big thing in Carrollton. And I think Wolves alumni have been very adamant about trying to build up their season tickets and making sure that University Stadium is packed out every single week. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens. And I can tell you also, Carrollton fans are a little bit disappointed West Georgia wasn't in the college football video game that came out.
Oh man, I know, because I remember the old NCAA 14 game used to have the FCS schools.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm very intrigued about now that they are an FCS, opportunities to call games on ESPN Plus. If you need an announcer, I know you got a bunch of talented announcers that work for Hometown Sports Media, but it's been a lifelong dream of mine to call college football on ESPN Plus. So I'm just throwing my name out there. I know that it's on the horizon because now they're an FCS school.
We'll pass that along. And actually, we got very lucky as one of our Hometown Sports Media broadcasters is broadcasting on ESPN Plus. Logan Maddox.
There you go.
Will be the voice of the West Georgia Wolves.
That's how it works.
Yeah. We're very excited, and Logan is our Haralson County voice, so he's going to be able to travel down to Pike County this coming week.
I tell you what, I mean, I work for a live streaming company called Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and when we got the Chattahoochee Valley covered, it's nice to see that Hometown Sports Media, the Morning Five, you guys have got the West Georgia area covered. I just really appreciate you being on the show and giving love to those teams in West Georgia that I'll be honest with you, I don't think that like the Atlanta sports stations are covering these teams. The only people that actually have interest is GPB Sports, Matt Stewart, John Nelson. I mean, they know exactly where these places are because these are talented teams that have a tradition of winning.
Yeah, I got to see John Nelson at our media day that we just had recently with all 10 schools that we have in the West Georgia area.
I love it.
And you talked about a few of the schools. We're missing Bremen. We're talking about Mount
Bremen.
Zion. We're talking about, some of these schools.
I forgot to mention Mount Zion. They beat Chatco 34-0.
Yeah, they did.
Very talented team. Bremen is hosting Jordan this week. I mean, they got to give love to those schools as well, man.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of all the coaches in the area. They've been nothing but accepting to the Morning Five and Hometown Sports Media. Even Joey King, who Hometown Sports Media doesn't really get to cover because they've got their own Trojan Nation network that covers Carrollton. But Joey King has been nothing but great for us, and we're excited to continue to work forward and basically spotlight these kids and make them sound like the superstars that they are.
And it sounds like the Carrollton Trojans. The Trojans are their nickname, right?
Yes.
It sounds like the Carrollton Trojans are the Central Red Devils of the Chattahoochee Valley. But I mean, when you have a player like Juju Lewis, you're on ESPN2. Yeah, they got their own network, and I can understand that.
Yeah, and this week we've got a big week of high school football again. All 9 of our schools are playing, and Central is actually hosting Oxford, which is going to be a massive game.
Massive.
That we cannot wait to watch. It's not going to do anything for as far as region standings or anything, but I would love to see just how Oxford, who is a perennial power in Alabama, compared to what Central is, and see how they stack up together.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate you, Billy, coming on and talking a little West Georgia high school football. I would definitely love to get you back on. Before I get you out of here, tell everybody out there where they could find you on social media and how they can listen to you in the morning, and what are some of the content that you guys got going on.
So on the Morning Five, we're out on, just search the Morning Five, FIVE, on social media. My partner Bryce and I do a podcast every morning where we talk about the 9 schools in our area. Plus, we talk Braves, we talk Falcons, Hawks, college football, and occasionally we'll get into some just regular stuff too, just regular people stuff. So we are dads in this area, and we talk about just being the family. But you can follow us there. Follow HSM, Hometown Sports Media, HSM_West Georgia on social media. We'll be putting out a lot of content coming up. We've got coaches shows that we record every Wednesday that we'll put out on Thursdays. So we've got it covered here in the West Georgia area.
There's no question about that. It's Billy Lindahl from the Morning 5 Sports. Thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule and being a guest on the Sports Beat.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate it.
All right, that's it. That's our show. Thank you, everybody, for those who have been watching. And don't forget, you can follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. You can follow me on the X. I'm also on TikTok, Instagram. You can also download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, and have a great rest of your night.